Hello and welcome to the College of Arts and Sciences webcast for incoming first-year students, class of 2023. My name is Paul Snigowski. I'm a professor of biology and I'm the dean of the college. And together with my colleagues here, who I'm going to ask to introduce themselves in a moment, we're here to answer your questions as you go through your summer before college. And to have some discussion about various things that you can do in preparation for registering for your courses and getting ready to come here for your first semester. So I'd like to turn to my right here and ask Dr. Scott Francis to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Scott Francis. I'm an assistant professor of French in the Department of Romance Languages, and I've been at Penn since fall of 2012.
Hi, I'm Janet Ty. I'm the Dean of First Year Students and the Director of Academic Advising in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm that person who's been sending you all those emails and reminders, and you might see me in one of those videos on the Compass course, so I feel like we've already met.
I'm the college dean. Janet is your dean.
I'm Rebecca Poyero. I'm an assistant dean for advising and advisor in the college office, and several of you, I hope, are my advisees. And my background is in American studies. My PhD is in American social and cultural history.
And as you can see here, Rebecca has a computer where your questions are coming in, and she will be the one to sort of moderate this and introduce new questions as we go through the hour of answering questions and discussing. And each of us will take our turn addressing your questions depending on our various areas of expertise and what we have to contribute. So, Rebecca, do we have questions?
Yes. First up is, what are freshman or first year seminars? And does every first year student have to take one?
Well,
You teach one.
and I have since I got here in fall of 2012. That was the first. That was the first course I taught at Penn, actually.
That's true.
And I've been teaching it since then. It's called The Fantastic Voyage from Homer to Science Fiction. So to answer the question, they're not required. First year seminars. But they are really excellent courses to take. More on that in a second. The name first-year seminar is a little bit of a misnomer. Many of them are actually open to upperclassmen. Mine, for example, I've traditionally had at least a couple of slots available for sophomores through seniors, but it still is a majority first-year students, 90% or higher. And so the great thing about them is that, first of all, there are a lot of them on offer. And they're basically a chance to have a lot of one-on-one contact with Penn professors that might not necessarily be typical of a first-year experience where there might be a lot of lecture courses that you're taking. These courses are all capped at either 15 or 20, depending on the instructor's preferences. And so that's basically what they are. They are seminars, a course where the workload is fairly intensive. In mine, for example, we read about one book, one fairly lengthy book every 1 to 2 weeks. There's 2 papers to write, and there's a research project that involves looking at the Mark B. Adams science fiction collection in the Kislak Center at the library. So this is about 2,500 works from the golden age of science fiction, 1950s to 1970s. A lot of very rare stuff in there. We only got this in 2014. Students choose a work. They examine not only the work itself, but the copy, the cover art, everything that makes the work into a book, and packages for an audience and do a presentation on that. And you're doing a fair amount of work, but under the close supervision and a lot of close interactions with a professor, where it's you, 14, 19 other students for a semester, and you're really getting that level of guidance.
Yeah, and I would say that, though, as Dr. Francis said, they're not required,
Yeah.
I would really recommend thinking about finding one that suits your interest. For years, I taught one on evolution, where we read and discussed all of Darwin's Origin of Species and a whole bunch of other historical and modern stuff, and then we talked about modern debates over creationism in the schools and things like this, and it really for me has been my most cherished teaching experience here, and I can remember having first year students in the class, and 4 years later walking across campus and seeing them and, striking up a conversation about things we talked about in that class. So it really is that kind of wonderful experience where you really get to know other students and your professor, and it can serve the purpose for you of kind of starting an interest in something that you then might look into even more as you go on.
Because what we ask the faculty to do is pick a research question or a puzzle in their field that they don't think you need to be, need a lot of preparation to be able for a new person to come and engage in interesting ideas about it and thinking it through with someone. And so the whole notion of that offers an incoming student an experience of how do you operate in a seminar? What do they mean by all this research stuff around here? And I think it's intriguing that I've taught one. It's one of my favorite teaching experiences. Professor Francis keeps doing it. He likes it. If we would let Professor Snigowski have another shot at it, he would do it. So these are really positive kinds of teaching experiences, and they will fulfill a general requirement for you.
That's a
So
good
do
point.
not forget.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Right. Each one is approved to fulfill a sector requirement. Some also fulfill a foundational approach.
Right. So in addition to being tons of fun and great, they also take care of some business that you need to take care of as part of your degree here.
And just to add briefly, it's a great opportunity to explore a field that you might not be inclined to otherwise. Not only because of the question of the sector requirements, but because you're getting that level of guidance with a professor one-on-one. In my course, I tend to get a lot of students who might be more inclined towards the STEM fields, but have an interest in science or speculative fiction. Literature courses might not really be their bag per se, or they don't have a lot of experience in it. But they find that actually having been instructed in this is what distinguishes studying literature from just reading a book that you like. They discover that maybe this is something I'd be interested in doing a bit more. Yeah. So it's really a great opportunity to broaden your horizons.
Here's a question that came in. What is a good or standard amount of classes to take for the first year? And should the freshman first year seminars and or the writing seminars be viewed as a heavier load, in quotation marks, than a normal lecture class? So that's two distinct questions. The standard amount of classes, first of all, the first semester incoming students in the college are limited to 4 classes or 4.5 credits. That 0.5 is usually if you're taking a laboratory class.
And the reason we do that is because we think that first semester there's lots of things to get used to on this campus, and so you may need that little extra time because many students take 5 courses, and you can do that in your second semester, but you might figure out, gee, I'm not quite getting what I want from these lectures. I'm not as efficient as learning at this kind of stuff that I was good at in high school. What do I do? And we have wonderful places like the Weingarten Learning Resource Center, where you might want to go spend a few sessions to learn how to take notes more efficiently, or other kinds of interesting new tricks that you hadn't thought about. Not to mention the fact that we have many clubs and symposia and all kinds of things going on. And then there's the little detail that, gee, you're going to be responsible for your own laundry. And there will be, having to get yourself fed and around the campus. And there's other students from all over the world who are interesting. So it's a gift that the college gives you.
Although we don't give a credit for the laundry, but you do need to.
You'll appreciate it, and your friends will appreciate it.
And I'm sure many people coming in have.
I certainly remember the laundry part from going to college.
Okay.
So going back to the question, it's 4 or 4.5 the first semester, and then in the spring semester you have the option of registering for up to 5 or 5.5 credits. Some people continue to take 4. It really depends on what's right for you, and that you'll figure out in conversation with your advisor. The second part of the question, should the freshman or the writing seminars be viewed as a heavier load, or I don't know if that meant harder or what that meant, than lecture classes? I think that you're going to hopefully have a variety of different types of classes, and they're going to give you different sets of challenges. Writing seminars and freshman seminars are going to demand more of you in terms of discussion in the classroom, potentially more writing for sure in the writing seminar, and a fair amount in freshman seminars. Some lecture courses do have some, a fair amount of writing too. And the lecture courses, may have you preparing for large midterm and final exams, but you may have, you'll have a discussion section attached to those, so there'll be some discussion there too. And I think that most importantly, it's a different feel in terms of the discussion and the way you're involved in relating to the professor and perhaps a TA. And you should have a mix of them. And it's not that one is heavier than the other. They're just different. You want to add anything?
Well, it also depends on you. What do you like to do, and what are you really good at doing, and what do you got to stretch a little bit to get better at doing, and you'll use different muscles in these classes, and that's something you've got to figure out.
Yeah, and that, I mean, hearkening back to my own college experience, I can tell you that one of the big surprises for me going to college is, coming out of high school and thinking, I got this figured out. I know how to do all this. And then getting to college and realizing, oh, I have to do some more learning how to learn. Because I'm being challenged at levels and dimensions that I hadn't had to deal with so far. And that's another part of the reason to sort of take it easy in that first semester. That's why we set you at 4 courses, and, expect whatever courses you're in. Don't really think about what's going to be heavier. Think about the fact that you're going to have to be doing some adapting when you get here. Expect that. Welcome it, work on it when you get here.
And one other follow-up question on that came in, what are the half-credit courses? As I said, they're usually labs. Sometimes people take a music lesson for credit, which is a half-credit.
There's some language courses where you speak, often affiliated with a college house. So you have a couple times a week where you have a dinner where you're speaking in that language, and those can be half credit too. That's another type.
Yep. Right, or film in the college house.
Film in the film course in the college house.
But most courses are going to be 1 credit. Here's another question. I took Spanish in high school, but I didn't take the AP exam. How do I figure out what level of Spanish I should register for?
That's an easy one. And Compass, that wonderful course on Canvas that we want you all to go through, will tell you how to find this thing. But on the Romance Languages Department page, there is a link that will take you to the Spanish, and we also have one for French, online diagnostic. So it will help you figure out your placement in the language course. The rest of the languages, you will have the placement, if we can't tell from high school and things, once you get here. The placement test is once you get here on campus for new student orientation. But for Spanish and French, you can do it online, and it's really easy peasy. So 20 minutes, and you can figure out which class you're supposed to be in.
And in fact, if you make a good guess based on how you did on the online test, and you show up the first week and your instructor says, oh, you're much more advanced, you must have, kind of missed something. The language departments have no interest in having you misplaced in a course. They'll help you move to the right level.
Yeah, and you can find all the necessary information, what language coordinators to talk to, or to the head of the language program. It'll be on the websites of the individual departments. And if there's any doubt, they'll place you where you should be.
How do I figure out what writing seminar I should take? So many things to figure out.
Well, I do think the writing program has a very good page which sort of suggests to you that we have different types of writing seminars. We have a whole big large set of writing seminars that are for any student, and we will take you from whatever your writing level is now to the next level. We also have 2 specialized kinds. One has the name of Craft of Prose, and there's a set of those. And they're for students who may be a little more nervous about their writing, or had some kind of problem in high school with their writing, and they want to spend a little more time on some of the basics. It's an extra hour a week in those writing seminars. They're very good. So if you wanted to take Craft of Prose, that's fine. The third type of writing seminar we have is Global English, and that's for students who English may not have been their first language, or they've done a lot of learning in a multilingual environment, and they may want to have a writing seminar that helps them sort of parse out the ways of writing in English in a university campus. And again, they're marvelous, all taught by the writing instructors, some with some sort of specialized, but you will have to go on the website, take a look. The other piece of advice I will give you is that you should recognize that there's a lot of them. And you shouldn't fall in love with a topic necessarily on a writing seminar, but to recognize that I could like a number of these different topics, and they could teach me what I needed to know for composition and university research, and I might have to pick more than one depending on the other things I need to do in that semester. You have more time flexibility with the writing seminar. You may not have that same flexibility with other courses you want to take. So I always say there's probably several of them that you could fall in love with and go take a look.
One last thing to say about the writing seminar is it's very important to take it your first year to get the full benefit from it, because it will stand you in good stead to write research papers at Penn. You would not want to delay it. And indeed, taking it the first semester is very smart in a way, planning-wise, because you're restricted to 4 credits, 4 courses, as we said. And there is a lot of work, writing and rewriting and critiquing and organizing and thinking through thesis statements and putting together a portfolio. It's a very labor-intensive course, and it fits nicely in a semester where you're definitely limited to 4 credits. You could take it in the spring, but it's a good idea if it fits in with your schedule to take it in the fall. Here's another one that came in. I wanted to ask if there are any extra documents required for incoming international students who might be under 18 years old. I've heard sometimes they're required. I think we would just refer you to the ISSS, the International Students and Scholars Services. They have a website with a lot of information on it. You can also call in to get information about those questions, and you should be linked with them anyway to figure out all the things that you would want to figure out coming to Penn.
And they're very used to getting questions, and especially about documentation. So, don't hesitate to call, and I always feel like, call now, because you never know how long it takes to get some of this stuff, taken care of. So it's better, and I know they're in their offices, so please feel free to call them.
That's right. Oh, gosh, we're getting a lot of questions. I have a hold on my account in Penn and Touch and can't register. What should I do? Well, if you see that hold and you haven't gone through Compass, which Dr. Tai was talking about, you should go through all those modules, and you should do your first year advising questionnaire. And the person who can take those holds off is your advisor, who might be one of us or another faculty or staff member on campus. So you will want to get on that right away. And advanced registration is going through July 19th, so don't wait till the last minute.
Just began, so you're not behind.
Right.
Don't worry.
Right. And the other thing to know is those holds on Penn and Touch, you should grow accustomed to checking Penn and Touch and seeing them, because they'll appear throughout your college career, and sometimes they might be related to registration, but sometimes they might be from other offices. So it's important to be cognizant of when they're there. So here's one that just came in. What do you wish first-generation Ivy parents knew or would do?
First-generation Ivy parents.
I think my guess is parents of first-generation students.
So first-generation students who are coming to an Ivy League institution and parents of those students.
Unless, there's a little ambiguity unless the person meant that they went to an Ivy League, but I'm going to guess that it's about first-generation students coming to college who are in the first generation in their families to go.
Well, this is interesting because I think we're talking to students in our session right now, and so students out there will tell you what your parents should do for you, I guess. I don't know. So I think I'll take a crack at this and try to answer it very generally, and then the collective wisdom here will help out. But in my experience, the best thing that parents can do for their students when they come to college is not to weight their child, too heavily with any particular expectations as to what area of study the student will go into, college is a time of exploration, and by design, our curriculum encourages exploration in the first 2 years especially. That's not to say that if you know exactly what you want to do, if you want to be a romance languages major, that's fine. Come here knowing what you want to do. But often as not, what happens is that students come here thinking they know what they want to do, and when they realize the incredible diversity of opportunities that is here, they may find that there's something else that they're interested in. One of the sources of stress for a student is to feel that in some way they will be disappointing their parents if they go into an area other than some area that parental pressure has put on them. And so I think it's very important for parents to realize that when your student goes off to college, they go off as an individual to college. And much as you've worked hard to get them there and you want to support them, one of the hard things to do, but really important things to do, is to let them go and let them explore. Any other comments?
Well, by the same token, anyone could have questions about, I don't know, the finances, about the academics, about research, and you want to, where do you go to get the answers? Well, in the college, we have on our main page, it's got information for and it's got information for parents, so you could go there. If you have questions that in your mind seem to be about being a first-generation student, we have a lot of resources organized that way. And if you just Google that at Penn or in the college, those things will come up. And it's a whole page of possible things for you to look at and figure out, where would I go to get an answer to this question? I also think you should recognize we've got lots of really helpful offices that are trying to work with you and with the students. So financial services is there. We have a whole specially trained set of advisors in the schools that deal with first generation issues. We also have a Penn First Plus office, which is people who are very interested in first generation students. And we have colleagues in any number of university life offices who are also are putting themselves out there to help, navigate these things. On top of that, we have a lot of faculty who were themselves first generation and actually have figured out how to navigate academia. And they're more than happy to, if they can, listen to your questions, hear your experiences, point you towards, places to get answers to things that you're confused about or you don't quite understand. And I want to say this very clearly to you. There is no question that you shouldn't feel comfortable coming, if you're a student in the college, coming into the college office and asking us. We will help you find the answer if we don't know it. So that's really important.
And realize, while we're on the subject of being a first-generation student, we brought you here because you belong here.
Absolutely.
We brought you here because you belong here. This is your university, your college. This is your place.
So here's a question that just came in about the math placement, or rather diagnostic test. The question is the result of this test something for me to know and help me choose which math course I should take, or is it something for the university to assess and then choose which course they feel would best fit me?
Both.
Yes.
Well, that's not...
Why would your idea and the university's idea not be the same? Because the the math department designed this special diagnostic because they recognize that if you're going to build on a math course, and all our science fields do that, our economics does it, many fields do that at Penn, then you need to lay a solid foundation.
Right.
And starting at the right place is a way to build that solid foundation. So if you come back to us and we see what you did on the diagnostic, and you talk to your pre-major advisor about your high school experience, that's 2 data points now we have about putting it together. We can explain to you how the math curriculum works, and we can then hopefully get to both what the institution thinks is a good place for you to start and where you're happy starting out. And recognizing that some of you may not think they are math's your thing and you don't ever want to take math, and if you want to do many things at Penn, you don't really have to ever take a math course. But if you're not sure what you want to do, probably at this moment, all the math you have from high school, this is the moment when you know it best. Take the diagnostic. It's just trying to figure out, what do you kind of know, what do you don't know, and where should we start you off?
Yeah, and
all-
something to say about the diagnostic is that you may feel, thinking about this and thinking about taking this, that its object is to punish you for what you don't know, or to put you, to set you back into some lower level when you want to fly and go far. No, the object is to start you at the right level so that you can fly and go far. If you start at a level that is too high for you, then you might have an experience that really doesn't help you very much. And so the math department, and people in that department very well, they're very interested in having students, really do well and really progress in math, but they know that in math, as in so many areas, you got to start in the right place in order to do that.
Speaking of starting in the right place, it's a question that a biology professor might be very good to answer. What is the difference between Biology 101 and 121? And what kind of recommendation would you make to people for
Well,
starting
they're different
that
numbers.
Look what we have to do on that.
So there are 2 introductory biology tracks that you can follow in the biology department. And first thing to say is that either of them will do, for example, if you want to be a biology major, or you want to be, if you're thinking of going into a pre-medical curriculum, either of them is okay.
Pre-dental, pre-vet, they're all the same.
One of
Pre-health,
those
anything, yes.
pre-things.
Yes.
Either of them will do. So that's the first thing to say. Now, the difference between, the 2 tracks are 101 and 102. And I've taught in both tracks myself. So there's 101 and 102 as a pair of courses. And then there's 121, which is a sort of course that stands alone, and then you take an extra lab course your next semester. And so let's talk about 101 versus 121. Both of them are biology at the molecular and cellular level with some genetics, molecular genetics in there. And we recommend 121 for those students who have had AP biology in high school, and so who are ready and want to sort of plunge straight into a course that is pretty chemically oriented, pretty biochemically oriented right away. It's a great course. I taught in it for years. So is 101, though. 101 is a great course, and it is biology at the same levels, and it's specifically taught as a prelude to Biology 102, which I currently teach in. So either one will do for you. One of the things that students think about and worry about, and I want to assure you is not a concern, they think, 121's harder. And if I take 121, I won't get as good a grade as if I take 101. I'm here to tell you that statistically that's not true when we look at the grade distributions in those 2 courses. And so it's really more about what's the right course for you. If you were really a biology aficionado in high school and you took AP Bio, then really you ought to take 121. That's the course for you. If you're someone coming to college and saying, actually I'm really interested in biology, but I never had any in high school, or I had a course, but it wasn't really AP, then 101, 102 will be great courses for you.
And I'll give you another piece of wisdom from your fellow students. Your fellow students have repeatedly told the advising staff, well, if you had biology, and it was really good biology, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, right.
Like you had it early in high school, and you could have lost some of it. There's more review in the 101, 102 sequence than in 121. And I think that's actually solid advice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, here's one. I want to get involved in research. Should I try and find a lab right away or wait?
So let's start first with what research is in answering that question, because some research is not done in a lab.
Absolutely.
So I just want to give a nod to the various forms of research that you might, as a student,
Right.
go into. However, I think the question writer is thinking in terms of scientific research. So I'll answer that one, and then I'll turn to Dr. Francis and let him talk about research in the humanities and social sciences and so forth. What I usually advise students is in your first semester, I don't really think it's a good idea to try to pitch yourself straight into doing research work in a lab. It's a big adjustment to come here. We hold you to those 4 courses. You're going to learn about all these social opportunities and other things going on campus. So settle in, take your courses, get some rhythm, get a feel for what it's like to do well here with all of the other distractions that are going on. Find your style. In the second semester of your first year, then is the time to start thinking about, well, I want to do research. How do I make a connection for the summer coming up or for the next year? One of the great opportunities to do that is a program called PURM, P-U-R-M. And I always forget what the P stands for. It's either Penn or Provost.
Penn.
Penn Undergraduate Research Mentorship Program. Thank you, Janet.
Yeah.
I've had students in my own lab who came in from PERM. What PERM does is faculty send in projects to PERM, which resides in CURF, the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships. And the faculty are given awards to support students to do research with them. And these awards are specifically the ones that go out in the February of the spring semester are for first-year students, by and large. And so first-year students can go online on the PERM site and see these various research projects and write a very brief application and wind up working with somebody. So that's just one of the many ways to find a research connection. But to go back to the answer for the question, in my view, the first semester is a time really to sort of get your rhythm, find your style, and don't get too wrapped up and too worried about getting going in research in that first semester.
Yeah, I'll start by just reiterating Paul's point about finding faculty research projects on, through the CURF database.
Yeah.
Who are often actively looking to recruit undergraduate assistants. Myself included. I have a transcription project for digital edition that if that's something that interests you, whether or not you have French, give me a call. But in all seriousness, I mean, there are opportunities of that nature in the humanities. It could be, preparing an edition, could be helping with secondary research for a book that are widely available through Penn faculty. I myself, when I was an undergraduate, did something very much of that nature with my advisor at the time, who's now my colleague, which ended up leading to her second book. So it's very commonly done. And not only that, oftentimes, if you end up pursuing a humanities major, there will be a research component to the work you do toward that major. This is the case in French, for example, for all of our majors, but especially for those who decide to do honors, which involves about a 50-page research paper on a topic of your choice that can often lead you to do very interesting research. I just supervised one this past year on questions of race in the French national soccer team.
Mm.
So it's there's a lot of latitude to, as Paul said, find yourself, sort of find what it is that really interests you, and the faculty is there to guide you in terms of, okay, this is how you go about doing that research, and not just the faculty, but I'll also mention the library staff as well.
Yeah,
Excellent.
It's
sure.
I think of an underutilized resource for how good they are and for how numerous they are, who can point you in the exact right direction of both physical and digital resources that'll put you on the right track.
Yeah.
And remember, this is a big university. We have an archaeology museum.
Yep.
We have rare book rooms,
Yes.
more than one. Which I've had undergraduate advisees do research in both of those places.
Yes.
We have in the archaeology department, we have a marvelous resource, which is you can do biological anthropology, which is almost like lab research and biologists, but you can also work with human beings if you're interested in cultural anthropology, and they have any number of interesting projects, as does the sociology department and the political science department, interviewing people and working through those kinds of things. So there's lots of different kinds of research, and you should open yourself up in the beginning to explore those different things. Some of them are even work study jobs, which is a good thing
I was just
too.
going to mention this. Yeah. There's a word that keeps coming up. I'm not sure I used it, but Scott and Janet did, which is interesting or interest. And what's really important, well, let's put it this way. Nothing is more drudgery and boring than having to do research on something you're not interested in. And so ask yourself, as you come here and as you develop through your courses and talking with friends here and with professors, what interests me? What can I just, what is there some subject that I just can't stand not to learn more about, more than is even in my courses? And if you have a strong feeling about that, there's someone here you can work with, almost any subject, and we'll help you find that.
And I'll just add very quickly that it's not just that these resources are present at Penn.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they very actively want undergraduates
Absolutely,
to use
yes.
them
Yeah.
and make it easy for you to do so. The Kislak Center, our Rare Books
Absolutely.
Library,
Yeah,
is the example I'm most familiar with, but it's a good example.
Yeah.
Insofar as we have, it's an excellent Rare Books Library. We have some very unique things there. I mentioned the Adams Science Fiction Collection earlier. Another good example of this is the Beitler collection of the pertaining to the Dreyfus Affair. It's a lot of ephemera, so political posters and pamphlets, newspaper clippings, even board games, dating from the Dreyfus Affair, turn of the century France. A Jewish officer, unjustly accused of treason and imprisoned for decades. Probably the crime of the century in 19th century France, and an event of immense historical importance. And we have this collection here. Not only do we have it, it's very easy to either use it in courses. I've done this myself, and have students go through the collection. You can work with it yourself too if you have a project in mind that would involve it. It's there for you to use. They want you to use it, and they'll make it easy for you to use it.
You notice that we have lots of things to say about research, and I have a couple more things to say. One is that that a real distinction of the College of Arts and Sciences, situated as it is inside this major, burgeoning research university, that separates this college from small, freestanding liberal arts colleges, is that you have access to all of this research. It's around you. We seek you out. We try to find ways for you to get involved in this research. The other thing that I will tell you is worth doing, even in your first semester. Let's go back to the subject of interest, and the reason I bring this up is that this is how I, over my 23 years here, have wound up finding students who wanted to do research with me. That is, some of those students, after a lecture, came up to me after a lecture and started asking me questions about what I was just talking about. And I realized, hey, this student is really interested. And we wound up talking more, and I wound up saying, hey, let's make an appointment. Come to my office, we'll talk some more. Let's see if we have some common interests here, and we might find a way to work together. So you should, by all means, if you find yourself interested in something, really interested, not just, do I need to know this for the exam, but like, gee, I just can't stand to know more about this. Go down there after a lecture and ask questions. Believe me, professors love this more than anything.
One other piece about research. Sometimes you have this intriguing idea and you go to talk to somebody and you find out, oh, well, they made you feel like you don't know enough yet to be able to do that thing.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But also recognize in those classes, you're getting skills. You're learning how to do the thing. Maybe it's greater dexterity in a language.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that you're picking up skills in quantitative data analysis that you could use someplace else. Maybe it's you needed a little background knowledge about that part of the world or that phenomena, and now you have it. Even in first year biology classes, you get your hands dirty in laboratories where you pick up lab skills. Just remember, those are all skills. And that's what research is also partly about. You learning how to do new things and to really critically think about and analyze this puzzle that is out there for you.
Yeah. If you feel like you're interested in an area that you have no background in and no skills, don't let that keep you. Don't let that keep you from going into, and I speak personally here. My undergraduate degree was in music, and as I finished that degree, I thought I always wanted to be a biologist. But I had no skills in biology. Don't let it stop you from exploring and possibly going into something that you have a powerful interest in. One thing that we know is true in research, and I know my colleagues will back me up on this, it's often the person who comes from outside a field and comes into that field and acquires some skills who has a really fresh perspective on the questions and the interesting areas in that field and brings newness to the field. And so you really have something to offer even if you come from outside of having any experience in something that you're interested in.
On that note, here's another question that came in. Any advice for someone beginning to develop imposter syndrome?
Well, you're
Stop.
not alone. Well, but they're not
You're not
alone. You're not alone.
You're not alone. I'm just kidding.
Yes, he's right. You should stop right now. No, everybody has that. A great many of my advisees, and I've been advising students for a very long time, will confess at some point, Penn made a mistake. I snuck in and, they must have read my application wrong. I don't belong here. Everybody else is smarter. Everyone else is more ambitious. Probably not. And having a moment of doubt isn't a terrible thing, but what you got to do is work through that moment of doubt, which is figuring out what am I worried that I don't know that I should know, or what is it that I want some more context about, or how is it I can work through this? And everybody will work through it differently, I suspect, because maybe it's about the fact that you really thought you're going to do this and you find out you have aptitudes here and you're confused, and that's not the same thing, but it's an interesting puzzle.
One thing to think about with this is if those feelings of being a phony or an imposter, try to get a handle on whether they're affecting how you're doing. If you feel that those feelings are affecting your performance, your ability to learn, then we have resources, places to go, Weingarten Learning Resources Center. And a strong student goes for help. A strong student goes to office hours. A strong student goes to tutoring, Weingarten Learning Resources Center. That's what a strong student does. All of us, I'm sure every one of us here sitting in front of the camera will tell you that at one time or another in our careers we felt like an imposter. I can tell you that when I went in to take my qualifying exam for my PhD in biology, I turned to my girlfriend, who I'm now married to, and I said, well, they're going to find out I'm a phony, and they're going to kick me out. So we all feel this way at one time or another. In fact, if you think about it, it's kind of got to be that way, because if you're really pushing yourself out to the limit of your ability, part of the time you don't know what you're talking about and you don't know what you're doing, and that's why you're out there. You're trying to push yourself and learn new things. But if you feel that it's holding you back, that it's harming your ability to learn, then you really should seek resources to help you.
I couldn't agree more. Like on some level, the imposter syndrome never really goes away.
No, it doesn't.
Bad news.
But what can change is how you think about it. I think it's an important distinction to make between sort of genuine self-examination or self-doubt, you could say, and feeling like you're a phony.
Mhm.
Now, like, one's productive, one is not.
Mhm.
Because I think on some level, in order to do any kind of serious intellectual work, you need to be able to understand what your own limits are,
Yeah.
understand what you need to get better at,
Yeah.
and that's just a function of being honest with yourself and of integrity, really. And I think that's it's important to take that seriously and to work with it.
Yeah.
But what you shouldn't be doing is saying, "Oh, like everybody else belongs here and I doesn't,
I don't.
and I don't." That's simply not true.
You belong here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I also have found myself in moments in my life when I felt it too, and I think it's often at moments of transition, right? And this is a huge moment of transition for everybody coming in. You're not an imposter, you're a beginner at college. And I would hope that you would try and remember all the other times in your life that you've had struggles or challenges that were scary or hard that you faced. And we're all here to talk. Your advisor, places on campus you could go for counseling, lots and lots of support. So I think talking to other people and creating bonds on campus, when you find friends, when you find some people connect with people through extracurriculars or political groups or cultural centers, connecting and having authentic friendships with people in which you say, I've really been feeling like an imposter, chances are they're going to say, oh, me too. So I think you'll find that when you come. What other things did we get? Do I need to fulfill all the general education requirements my first year?
No.
Short answer, no.
Don't even try. Don't even think about it.
But also, as you choose courses, you're going to fulfill a lot of things sort of inadvertently. You know, because it's not like we build a curriculum filled with courses that don't count for things. That's not very clever of us. We actually thought about this. We put the courses together in a way that should help you move forward. Also, our general education requirements, it's not really an onerous. It's probably only about a third, if that much, of your career at Penn. The courses are interconnected. They help you explore majors. They are part of the strength of the liberal arts education, where you can say you have had a broad education because we don't let you get away without doing it. So relax. You will, in the first year, fulfill a lot more than you think you are without hardly even trying.
Okay, work study is part of my financial aid package. How do I find work study jobs? There's a student employment office website connected to the Student Financial Services website, and they have a database. You can search for all the jobs that have come open. I think the fall jobs are probably not up yet, but you can look at the ones that are there over the summer to get a sense of some of the types of jobs there are. And there are a lot of different ones. Some are in labs, some are working
Checking books in the library.
Right, or in the neighborhood schools, helping with an after-school club with kids in middle school. Lots and lots of different jobs that are out there, and the only thing you'd want to be careful about is, we understand that, you definitely want to make sure that economically you're in good shape, but you don't want to overdo it in terms of work hours for the work-study job, especially not in the first semester. What would you say is the top? I mean, I don't know if we want to give a top number, but I think keeping it...
The federal government's number is like 20 hours.
That's a lot.
That's way too much.
Yeah.
So think about somewhere around, I would say, half of that.
Yeah.
Might work better, especially the first semester, and then you'll get a sense of your efficiency at work, and if you're checking books at the library, maybe you can study on the side,
Yes,
or
this does happen.
you're at the desk in the college house checking people in. That's plenty of downtime in those kinds of jobs. But other jobs, it's more hands-on, and you might not have any downtime. So that's what you got to figure out. Also, it's important that students have made it pretty clear to me that it's the getting here on campus, which shows them a much wider set of jobs. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
places are slow at getting them in the database, or there's some that are just not visible until then. But believe me, don't worry about getting it before you get here, because
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
necessary.
And do give some thought to the kind of job that's going to be right for you. In some cases, a job that might be aligned with what you think is going to be your research interest, working with a professor doing some textual work or working in a lab, that might be aligned. Or it might be that you just want a job where you can just go do it and turn your brain off largely for a while. But think about what you think is right for you.
There's a question, what do we have to do for the pen reading project this summer?
Read
year.
the book.
The year of, well, the book is Weapons of Math Destruction by Kathy O'Neill. I don't know if anyone brought we don't have
We didn't bring it.
Well, you get it electronically, so
Yeah.
it's kind of.
I didn't bring
Even if
mine,
I had
sorry.
it, yeah.
I started it.
Uh-huh. There are group discussions on Friday, August 23rd.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Read the book and give some thought to it. And, if you're the kind of person who takes notes, take a few notes. Like if a really interesting question arises that the book raises but doesn't seem to answer, gee, that's perfect for the session that you're going to have when you get here, the discussion session about the book.
And if you're a little leery of the word data, I would say that I think there's quite a political emphasis to this book, the
There is.
uses of data. So I think that lots of people will find ways to be interested in this book.
And having been a veteran of many years of pen reading projects, books, paintings, movies, we've done all kinds of interesting
Yeah.
things. They are chosen so that they offer lots of different avenues of coming in and discussing things and can be looked at from different angles. And the idea is to have something that all of us across this university community are sharing. So we have faculty in all 12 schools who read the books and
Yeah.
take part in the discussions. We have upper class students who decide, hey, I don't want to be left out of that, or that's an interesting book. They take part. We have a whole year of events related to the questions raised by this year's book is Weapons of Math Destruction. So believe me, it goes in lots of different directions. Even if you think, I don't want to read a book like that, give it a try, because you might be surprised, and you do want to not be left out of the conversation right when you get here.
Yeah, and be ready to bring your perspective to the conversation. I mean, this is something we really, those of us who've done these sessions, we really value the different perspectives of people from different backgrounds, people from around the country, around the world. They come and they offer from their perspective what they think about the book and its questions.
There's a question about study abroad. When did students typically go, and what level of proficiency do you need to be in a language to study abroad?
So in terms of when do students typically go, it's as one might expect, it's still mostly in junior year. Although it used to be the case that there was a typical spring semester abroad, like back in my day. But what's happened in recent years has been a shift towards the fall, so as not to.
The numbers are about the same.
They're about the
oddly
same.
enough, yeah.
So it's more or less more even than it used to be, largely because there's a concern about conflicting with on-campus recruitment in the spring. But basically, you have latitude in terms of when you can choose to go abroad. In terms of proficiency, well, the short answer basically is it depends on the language and it depends on the program. So to give you, for instance, in French, if you want to do the summer program in Tours, you need the equivalent of 3 semesters. If you want to do one of the semester-long ones in Paris or Lyon, you need the equivalent of 5 semesters. But it works differently in different languages. In Japanese, for example, they have 2 semester-long programs that require 2 semesters if you go in the fall, or 3 if you go in the spring, or one that actually requires 6 semesters. Japanese being that much different from English, and therefore more difficult than French is, for example. So really, the short answer is, depending on what you want, where it is you want to go, and what language it is, it's a function of that. You can actually find all of these programs listed along with their requirements on the Penn Abroad website.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's not too early to start thinking about it with your pre-major advisor. Not that you need to know exactly what you're going to do, but if, for example, you have in the back of your mind, I'd really like to study abroad in this language, you would want to start seeing what the parameters are for that and whether that would be possible and how you would plan courses throughout the years. So you should bring it
Yeah.
up with them and start thinking about it, even if you're not doing anything the first semester towards it.
Yeah, and as someone who's advised a lot of pre-health, so pre-medical, pre-dental, pre-vet students in my years, often what students who are in that kind of situation need to do is to make sure that they're going to cover all the science and math requirements that they need to apply to medical school at the end of their time. And so you need to think how a semester abroad can be fit in with that.
And
the-
it can.
It can.
and it can,
certainly
yeah,
can.
I don't mean to, but the earlier you start thinking about that, the better you're going to feel about making it work.
Maybe one last question. Do I keep the same advisor throughout college?
Well, yeah. No. You will have, if you're assigned to me as your pre-major advisor, I will be there for you your full 4 years. Most of our contact will be in your first 2 years, most likely, but I will still be there for you your full 4 years. But the person you're going to get to know at the end of your sophomore spring will be your major advisor. And so, for instance, in my department, and I'm sure, Scott, that's true for you as well, I serve as a major advisor for students in the bio major. And I get to know them, and I know them really well for their third and fourth years, sort of helping them with course choice, finding research, things like that. So you wind up having typically 2 advisors over your 4 years, one of whom stretches across the entire 4 years.
And you left out one.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So right now you've come in, many of you, if you've already gone through Compass and got the email, you know you have a pre-major advisor and you have a peer advisor who's a student.
Ah, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that pre-major advisor is a wonderful person. They'll help guide you in the door up and through when you choose your major, and you get a major advisor. But there is another person lurking on Pen and Touch. So you've all Pen and
Lurking.
Touch. Lurking. And that person is your college contact, which is this
Yeah.
line on Pen and Touch that most of you are going to read right over. But that's a member of the professional advising staff in the college office
Yeah.
who is at your disposal for 4 years. That person is there to answer whatever questions you have. They actually work with and mentor and sort of in the background of your pre-major advisor. All of the people in the college office have interesting expertise. Maybe it's study abroad. Maybe it's that they have done a lot of advising of transfer students. Maybe it's their own scholarly work in a particular field. It could be a lot of different things. I have people that work very closely with the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships, for example.
Curve.
That's yeah, you'll speak acronym by the time this webcast is over. But the important thing to recognize is you can stay connected to pretty much any advisor you have met in your time at Penn. Maybe it's a house, maybe it's someone in a cultural center. Maybe it's this wonderful learning resource person that you met at the wine garden. They can stay and be part of your life, but they will connect you to other people who might have more expertise about certain questions. So everybody should feel like, yeah, you like Professor Snigowski, you like me, you want to stay connected, great. You don't, it's okay too, we can live with that. But you can always find someone to answer your questions. We do it, that's why we're here, and that's important to us.
And before we end, we should also note that for very quick questions, the college office has walk-ins when you're on campus Monday through Friday from noon until 4. If you have a quick question that you need answered, maybe your advisor isn't available right then, or it's a sort of wonkish question that they're sending you to the college office for. And so that's a resource that you'll have on campus. And even if you were off campus, you could call the college office.
And that's
ask a question.
120 Cohen Hall is where the college office is. And besides all these wonderful advisors answering questions, we frequently have cookies and candy, and we actually have dogs who visit us. Hypoallergenic dogs, but if you miss your dog from home, please come stop by the college office and you can meet Tango and Chloe.
Sometimes
So-
I bring mine. I don't know. I don't think he's hypoallergenic.
No, it's okay. Gus is wonderful.
He's still a puppy, though. He only comes sometimes.
So our time is almost up, and I'm just going to do a little business here and remind you of some things. Class of 2023. Advance registration goes from the 24th of June to the 19th of July. Remember, it doesn't matter when during that period you register. It doesn't make any difference if you register early or late, but try to get it done, really, by the end of the 19th of July. Now, before you do that, you need to speak with some people. You should be in touch with your peer advisor, and you're going to need to speak with your pre-major advisor. Before you speak with your pre-major advisor, you need to go through Compass and do the freshman or first-year student questionnaire, and you should, as Janet said, do that math diagnostic. We're all really looking forward to seeing you in the fall, and of course talking with you if you are our individual advisees. Thanks for tuning in.